Hello, folks, after such a long time. My apologies for not doing this. I'm afraid I've been very, very busy. Life is full. Um, but let's do some Shakespeare. This is the same scene. This is Act 4, Scene 5, I believe. Act 3, Scene 5. The first half of the scene is, as we discovered last time, some of the most beautiful language in all of Shakespeare, where Romeo and Juliet consummate their marriage, and Romeo has a hard time leaving, and Juliet doesn't want to let him go, but he has to go. If he's discovered there, he's dead. So he's been banished to Mantua, and Romeo leaves, and Juliet is called downstairs to talk with her mother, Lady Capulet, and upon seeing Juliet's tears, probably crying because Romeo is gone, Lady Capulet thinks that she's crying because Tybalt has been killed. And she says, stop crying so much. It doesn't become you to cry this much. It's good to have some sadness, but this is too much. And Juliet's like, well, I have to cry. I love Tybalt. She's covering up the real fact why she's crying. And Lady Capulet says, well, I have a great plan for that bastard Romeo. I'm going to send a man to Mantua to poison him and kill him. And Juliet says, well, how about we get the guy to just dilute the poison enough to put Romeo asleep? How about that? And for some reason, Lady Capulet goes along with that. And then Lady Capulet says, but I have great news that will stop your tears. And she says, but now I tell thee joyful tidings, girl. And Juliet says, and joy comes well in such a needy time. What are they? Beseech your ladyship. Lady Capulet says, well, well, thou hast a careful father, child, one who, to put thee from thy heaviness, hath sorted out a sudden day of joy, that thou expectst not, nor I look not for. Juliet says, Madam, in happy time, what day is that? Lady Capulet says, Marry, my child, early next Thursday morn, a gallant, young, and noble gentleman, the county Paris, at St. Peter's Church, shall happily make thee, therefore, a joyful bride. Yikes! Juliet responds immediately, no, by St. Peter's Church, and Peter too, I shall not make me, therefore, a joyful bride. I wonder at this haste, that I must be that I must be wed before he that should be my husband comes to woo. I pray you, tell my lord and father, madam, I will not marry yet, and when I do, I swear it shall be Romeo, whom I hate, rather than Paris. These are news indeed. So she's just like, no way. And why am I having to marry someone who hasn't even wooed me? This is nothing. Plus, I'm 13, for God's sake. Lady Capulet says, well, here comes your father. Tell him so yourself, and see how he will take it at your hands. And her father comes in, Capulet comes in and says, why are you crying so much? It doesn't become you. And they go through kind of the same thing. And Juliet says, no, I'm not going to marry Paris. And Capulet goes off. There's a little dialogue first, and then he loses it. And he says, hang thee, young baggage, disobedient wretch. I tell thee what, get thee to church o' Thursday, or never after look me in the face. Speak not, reply not, do not answer me. My fingers itch. Wife, we scarce thought us blessed that God had lent us this only child, but now I see this one is one too much, and that we have a curse in having her. Out on her, hidling. The nurse tries to intervene, saying she's too hot. Capulet just puts her down, belittles her. And it just goes on and on. And her father basically says, if you don't marry Paris, get out of the house. Go beg in the streets. You're no daughter of mine. and leaves. And Juliet entreats her mother, help me. She says, is there no pity sitting in the clouds that sees into the bottom of my grief? O sweet mother, cast me not away. Delay this marriage for a month, a week, or if you do not, make my bridal bed in that dim monument where Tybalt lies. Help me or kill me, she says. Lady Capulet says, do not talk to me, for I'll not speak a word. Do as thou wilt, for I have done with thee. Now, it's important for me to remember that Shakespeare doesn't write villains. He writes human beings who are coming from a certain perspective. And at this time, it is normal for parents to arrange marriages and to pressure and force these marriages on the children. That's the culture. In this scene, it is more fiery, probably, than it was day to day in Elizabethan times, but this was the norm. And so I still do think that for their time, the Capulets are good parents. It's just from our modern perspective, this is just villainous what they're doing. And Shakespeare, for dramatic purposes, is really putting the screws on Juliet. But I think the Elizabethan audience, at least, would be reacting to this scene not so much as like, they're horrible parents, burn them at the stake. They're probably saying to themselves, oh no, what horrible timing. Oh, she's been set up to marry at the wrong time. Oh, this is horrible, oh my God. I'm a modern person, and when I read this scene, I'm like, screw you guys, you're horrible. I just have to remember that it was written in a different time. So that a little caveat there. I just think it's important that we recognize Capulet and Lady Capulet to be human beings. That's all. Juliet says they're left alone. The nurse and Juliet are left alone, and Juliet's like, oh God, oh nurse, how shall this be prevented? My husband is on earth, my faith in heaven. What sayest thou? Hast thou not a word of joy, some comfort, nurse? And the nurse says, Faith, here it is. Romeo is banished, and all the world to nothing, that he dares never come back to challenge you, to take you back. Or if he do, it must be by stealth. Then, since the case stands as now it doth, I think it best you marry with the county. Oh, he is a lovely gentleman. Romeo's a dish clout to him. An eagle, madam, hath not so green, so quick, so fair an eye as Paris hath. Beshrew thy very heart, I think you are happy in this second match, for it excels your first, or if it do not, your first is dead, or 'twere as good he were, as living here, and you no use of him. Juliet says, speak'st thou from the heart? The nurse says, and from my soul too, else beshrew them both. Juliet says, amen. Nurse, what? Juliet, well, thou hast comforted me marvelous much. Go in and tell my lady I am gone, having displeased my father, to Lawrence's cell, to make confession and to be absolved. Friar Lawrence, of course. Nurse says, Mary, I will, and this is wisely done. Juliet is left alone. Ancient damnation, O most wicked fiend, is it more sin to wish me thus forsworn, or to dispraise my lord with that same tongue which she hath praised him, and above compare so many thousand times? Go, counselor, thou and my bosom henceforth shall be twain. I'll to friar to know his remedy, or if all else fail, myself have power to die. So she curses heaven, saying, I'm being set up to marry twice, which is a sin. I can't marry twice. I'll go to hell for that. And I'm not talking to the nurse anymore. and I'm going to Friar Lawrence and see what help he has. And if he doesn't have any help, I'm going to die. So the nurse is trying to give wise counsel. You can't really have Romeo anymore. You should probably marry Paris. He's actually a pretty good guy. And we just see, right after this beautiful scene, the society, the norms of the society, what is thought of as wise, is trying to push her into damnation, and she's ready to die rather than be pushed that way. And so this is, once again, there was a text of Romeo and Juliet which had the perfect cover. I think I talked about it before. A beautiful flower being nailed to a wall. So this scene is the play in a nutshell thematically for me. The beauty of love and the crushing of that love. The crushing of the possibility for young love to flower in this world. And it keeps going after this, guys. I'll try to get back to this sooner. I'm off to Wales. Wish me luck, and I'll talk to you soon.